Hello and welcome to 𝐻𝐞𝐿 Europa League Final on Wednesday. Bilbao, San Mamés, two English teams, Tottenham Hotspur, Man United. Therefore, we have an English specialist, Tom Rennie. You might know him for his videos in the Premier League. And we have Ronan Murphy. And we have some time to analyze this final. Remember, the winner goes to the Champions League. So guys, tell me in the comments who is bringing home the trophy. It's going to be Tottenham Hotspur. Another surprise in the finals is going to be Man United. Subscribe to the channel, and now let's go on with the show. Well, if we can take a look at the odds, actually it's pretty tight, but Man United are favorites for the game, 2.6 to win. Tottenham is 2.9. And in our Premier League show, Tom, or FA Cup show last week, you were mentioning actually Crystal Palace to win a surprise in the FA Cup final. And we've seen some surprises this season also in the Coppa Italia, for instance, in Italy, with Bologna lifting the trophy. So perhaps we see Tottenham winning finally a trophy. Could be the year.
It could be. Look, going back to the FA Cup final, and indeed the Carabao Cup final this season as well, like, I don't think that this particular Europa League final has the same favourite underdog split as those two games did. Like, Liverpool went into the Carabao as big favourites to beat Newcastle, despite the backing Newcastle have got. Liverpool at that point felt imperious, like they were going to win every game they ever played. And going into this weekend, just gone, even though Palace are in sort of better form and look a better team than Man City, it's still Man City, you know. They went into it as quite significant favourites, as we spoke about a couple of days ago. But this, you mentioned the odds there, it's paper thin. It's a paper thin differential between these two teams, because this Manchester United side, despite a brilliant pair of performances against Athletic Club in the semi-finals, and you've got to say they were brilliant for long spells of both games, despite the incredible fortune from the 30th to 45th minutes they had in that first leg, they were really good. They defended well in that first half an hour. They scored really good goals. They rotated the squad. There were some great individual performances. So you've got to give them lots of credit for that. And in terms of Tottenham, I know Bodo Glimt, everyone is sort of ragging on them because, you know, they're not one of the great European names, but they've got lots of great victories in the Arctic Circle this year, so it wasn't easy going there. And the victory against Eintracht Frankfurt was very impressive. Certainly the victory away from home, I didn't see that coming. I'm not sure many people did. So I think you've got two very, very even teams here in lots of ways. Take away the Premier League season at this point. Think about how they've done in this competition. And they've got lots of great elements which could see them go through to win it. So I can see why the odds are very, very narrow. And I don't think, frankly, Tottenham winning it at 2.8 or United winning it at 2.5, I don't think there's an upset here. I think it's a very, very even final. And we'll get to it, but I quite fancy Tottenham. I really do think Tottenham are going to do a bit of a Bologna-Palace sort of thing here to a lesser extent.
Well, whose season has been worse, Ronan? Because everyone was having fun or jokes about Man United and Tottenham, but at the end of the day, if they win the trophy and they qualify for the Champions League, we can say it's been a good season, even probably for Spurs, especially.
Yeah, I think Tottenham winning would obviously make it a better season, and that's what you remember. I think there's no Crystal Palace fan around the world, never mind just in England. There's no Crystal Palace fan that cares where they are in the league table at the moment. They've won the FA Cup, and that's all they'll remember. So yeah, trophies are what you remember. It's not, oh, we came 7th this season, or we came 5th this season, or we came 17th maybe this season. That's not what you remember. So yeah, it's whoever wins this, it will be somewhat of a successful season. Obviously there'll be lots of discussion about the manager's future, whether they win, whether they lose, because these managers are managers who are expected to do better in the Premier League. But like Tom said, we've got to ignore the Premier League, and I think looking at the form, you really do need to ignore the Premier League. Man United haven't won in about 6 years in the Premier League, it feels like at this stage, with 8 Premier League games, and they lost all the last 3. The last 2 they haven't scored in. Similarly, Spurs haven't scored in their last 2 Premier League games. They've lost them both. So yeah, these are teams that cannot find a win whatsoever in the Premier League. Then you look at them in Europe, 2 totally different teams, and I think that's what we're hoping for from this final, that these 2 teams will give us the Europa League games. Tom mentioned many of them that Spurs had put in, but Man United's record was even better in the Europa League this season. They haven't lost a game at all, they've scored loads of goals. They scored 2 goals in every game apart from the 1-1 draw with Sociedad. That was one of the only 2 games they didn't even win in the Europa League this season. They've scored 3 or more goals in each of their last 3 Europa League games. United went to turn up in Europe. Look, a totally different team. I don't know, maybe their manager has them as a cup team. Maybe the manager has Tottenham as a cup team as well this season, or a European team. But yeah, like we've been saying, it's very hard to separate these sides. Either winning wouldn't be a shock, but like Tom, I think this is going to be Man United's year to win the UEFA Cup or the Europa League. They'll add that to their titles. Spurs have 2. United have 1, so they'll go level on UEFA Cups and Europa Leagues if they can win this one.
Okay, we have Ronan going for Man United, Tom going for Tottenham. These teams have met 3 times this season, all wins for Spurs, and you mentioned the pitiful Premier League season for both sides. Actually, Tottenham have not won 26 games in the Premier League, 1 game more, even United, 27. Tom, if you think Tottenham could win the trophy, which player should we look at? Perhaps Solanke has been the best news for Postecoglou this season?
Yeah, I like Dominic Solanke. I think he's done really well. I think it's 5 goals in the Europa League this season, a decent amount in the Premier League as well. And I think that he is a striker that has movement. He has ability to hold the ball up. He scores all sorts of different types of goals, from long-range efforts to tap-ins. He's got the ability to bring other players into play. I mean, just to move us back slightly in terms of players, I think if Dejan Kulusevski was fit and James Maddison was fit, I'd be supremely confident of a Tottenham win. I think the absence of those 2 players makes me wobble a little bit. I'm still going to take Tottenham for reasons that I'll get into in a second, but I still feel like those 2 are such huge losses. Their creativity vacuum is my only concern here, because Solanke's a tremendous player, but someone has got to cross in the ball. Someone's got to get in the ball. If Brennan Johnson plays, and I think he probably will, we don't know if Son's going to be fit and whether he's going to be picked. He's not had a vintage season, but if that is the front line, are those 2 guys going to be able to get to like the end line if you're Brennan Johnson and find a cutback to Solanke? Is Son going to do a trademark run inside and chop and shoot, or is he going to try and find Solanke? And then from that sort of lower ranking midfield position, Bentancur is so important in this game, because he's a class footballer, but he can't get around so much, and he has a bit of a discipline issue. I think maybe he knows he's slightly slower than he needs to be in this team, and so when he's been with, say, Sarr and Bissouma at times this season, when they've been able to get them all fit at the same time, they've covered for each other quite well. So the midfield balance is going to be really interesting if they can get Bentancur on the ball further up the field, which is not natural for him, but I think he has the ability to find that through ball. He's going to be pivotal, and then that front 3, finding ways to link together when they haven't played together a great deal this season, is going to be the issue for Tottenham. And then further key players, like I went to the West Ham game a couple of weeks ago where they changed maybe 9 or 10 players, Tottenham. I can't think of anyone who's going to play in this game who played in that. Similar story against Aston Villa on Friday last week, so they could have played it on the Sunday because nobody played who's going to be playing in this particular game, but whatever. Like, he's been able to rest his players, and Postecoglou, and he's been able to look at Romero and look at Mickey van der Ven. Without van der Ven, whatever Postecoglou wants to do doesn't work. And we've seen that all season long with the games you mentioned about, the amount of times they haven't won, 26 or whatever, in the league. Like, without him, it doesn't work. So there was a game a few weeks ago where at half-time, maybe Palace, he was like, get him off. Get him off. We're just trying to get him fit. We're trying to get him in shape, and that's all we need. Going into this game, I do think Ange Postecoglou, for all of his faults across the season, has built the fitness of key players to get to this point. Whereas if you look at Manchester United, they've tried to make rotations, but if you look at the team that played Chelsea the other day, Ahmad's going to start, Mount's probably going to play, maybe start. He's been pretty impressive. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes, has to be Harry Maguire, has to be Onana, has to be Mazraoui, has to be Dorgu. Maybe 7 or 8 played from the start on Friday, whereas Tottenham could pretty much change everybody. So I think the key players at Spurs, if they react well to being rested and developed in the way that Postecoglou has, which of course we don't know, different players react differently to these things, I think they've built to this game better than Manchester United. And I'm hoping for Spurs' sake, because, I think it will be better I know it sounds awful because it's fun to hate on Tottenham, but I do think it'd be better for football if Tottenham win it, because if they win it, there'll be a parade and there'll be celebration. It'll be the end of the 𝗀𝗲𝗄 joke for a while at least, and there'll be unconfined joy. Whereas if Man United win, they'll say, well, at least we qualify for the Champions League. That's good, isn't it? Should we have a small barbecue at Carrington? Like, it doesn't fit the same. So I think it's bigger for Tottenham. I think they're built for it better. They've got key players fit at the right time, and it just sways me. It just sways me. Even though Man U are better on the big stage, as we saw against Athletic Club, it just makes me feel like 𝗵𝗏𝗀 has got it right coming into the final. Now the players who are fit have to deliver, which is a whole other thing.
Well, Tottenham and Harry Kane again joining their paths if both finally win a trophy in this 2025. If we look at individual players, Ronan, of course, with Man United, we only have to look at Bruno Fernandes. By the way, he's the joint top scorer of the competition with 7 goals, together with 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐴 from Olympiacos and 𝗂𝐻𝐿 from Bodo Glimt. So if he scores, he will be top scorer of the competition on top of that.
Yeah, I think that Man United are very much a one-man team, and without Bruno Fernandes, nothing works for them. Just like Tom was saying, Mickey van de Ven for Spurs, he is kind of at the other end of the pitch maybe, or building the attack from the other end of the pitch. That he is their key player, but Bruno Fernandes, he has done everything for Manchester United this season. He's done everything for Manchester United in the Europa League. Without him, they would not be in the final. I know Casemiro and a few other players have kind of come on in recent weeks or kind of shown glimpses of their past greatness, but Bruno has been great kind of week in, week out. Like you said, he's joint top scorer. He has 7 goals and 5 assists in 13 games in the Europa League this season. But if you look at the latter stage, that's where most of them have come. He's scored or assisted in each of the last 5 games in Europe. He's got a hat-trick in one of them. So this is a player that Man United have to rely on. If he gets the chance, he'll take it himself. He's a very confident player. He kind of is an inspirational player. I know he has plenty of critics and people who don't think he does enough, and maybe that he complains too much, but I think he's right to do all those things, because some of the players, they don't kind of live up to the ability. They don't work as hard as he does on and off the ball. And I think he is everything about Manchester United. And my main tip for this, because like we've said, I'm picking Man United and Tom's picking Spurs, but my main tip, if you're not sure of who you think is going to win, would be Bruno Fernandes to score or assist. 230, it looks really good. I think Bruno Fernandes, if Man United get a penalty, he's the one that's going to score it anyway, so, or take it at least. So yeah, there's a good chance that Bruno Fernandes will be involved in anything that Man United do good on Wednesday. And yeah, so Bruno Fernandes scoring or assist looks a very good tip for me for this match.
And perhaps someone wants to take a look at the goals market here. Tom, we have the under as favorites, 1.9, under 2.5 goals. Over is 2.13, but we've seen plenty of goals in the games between these two teams in the Premier League, and we know how easy Tottenham scores. 63 goals scored this season in the Premier League is 21 goals more than the Red Devils, but also we saw crazy games for Man United in this Europa League. Of course, we all remember the games against Lyon, especially the one at Old Trafford, but also we saw plenty of goals against Real Sociedad, against Athletic. Do you expect goals or a boring final? Also, we all remember the final, the Champions League final at Bernabeu, Liverpool-Tottenham, perhaps the worst ever Champions League final.
Unfortunately, for those that like to be entertained, I think it's going to be more Liverpool-Tottenham than any of the other games you mentioned there. I mean, briefly to build on what Ronan said there, Bruno Fernandes, one of the best bets in this game in loads of ways. I've got him to score any time at 3.25. You throw that into any bet you've got here, and you're going to make some serious money. Double your money on Bruno Fernandes, the best player on the field to score at any moment. Feels like an easy win for all of us. But I think it's going to be low scoring broadly in this game because, you know, finals do tend to be like that. There's very rarely a World Cup final where it's toing and froing and last-minute saves and drama and all that sort of stuff and hat-tricks and whatnot. You rarely get that in finals. What you've got here is two quite nervy, underwhelming teams that know the season is on a knife edge. And with Tottenham, there's a possibility of great legacy. No one's going to give a damn if they finish 17th if they win this competition. We are so close to the 𝗀𝐻𝐿. Here's a trophy mic drop as well, which we're all very excited about. So I kind of hope that happens. So I think it'll be quite tight. I'd be looking at the under 3.5 goals market in the game. That'll bring you in double your money, slightly over for Tottenham to win and under 3.5 goals. I've got a nice little group bet for you of 2-1, which I think the score is probably going to be to Tottenham, but you bundle in 3-1 and 4-1, brings you at 7 here, which is 2-1. Last few minutes, Man U throw people forward, Spurs hit them on the break. You can see it the other way as well, so I think 2-1 or 3-1 either way, depending on your preferred winner, is a nice bet here. I'll take Spurs with those 3 scorelines at 7. And then you got to think about how this game is going to go. I think one of these teams wins by exactly 1 goal. I don't think we get more realistically than 3 goals in this game. If Spurs win by exactly 1, brings you at 5. Really, really like that bet. Again, you can take it on the other side as well. It's slightly shorter for Man United, but again, go with your gut on the winner, and the odds will be quite nice. And of course, it's going to be a drab game. It's going to be high tension. It's going to be lots of drama. If you love that sort of thing, if you love attrition and you love stress, it's going to be amazing. If you love beautiful football, I'd probably wait for like Serie A at the weekend or something. But this is going to be a really stressful game, and I think it might go long. So I can see Spurs winning it in the 90 by 1 goal. I can see us going to extra time, maybe even at 0-0. I know both teams are sort of defensively weak, but they're offensively a bit bereft at times as well if they're not on their game. Spurs in extra time is 12, and for even more added stress, on pens is 10. I just fancy Spurs to win a shocker of a game of football here, and there's a really good value in the Spurs market because they're near double your money just to win. And you mentioned they've got really good form against Man United, who are so deficient. They're such a deficient team. I know it's Manchester United, and there's every chance they could win it, but there is something about this Spurs side against what Man United have got. They've got more pace, they've got more power, they've got more to play for, they've got more on the line, they'll be better supported, and it just feels like they're going to do it, Tottenham. I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth because it's never happened before, but I just feel like they're going to do it. I don't know.
Well, another market that I want to throw in the mix is both teams to score. The bookies think we are going to see both teams scoring. Actually, it's 1.8. Both teams to score no is 2.14. Ronan, is this also the final test for Amorim? He's been deficient, I would say, for Man United, leaving Sporting Lisbon, by the way, Portuguese champions, to join Man United and fail, I would say. Well, it's going to depend on this final, but for sure, if they lose the final, he's going to fail at Man United. Probably he's going to continue. Postecoglou, probably he's going to leave, no? Tottenham. But I'm not sure if a defeat here also for Amorim could be lethal for him.
I don't think so. I don't think United are going to pull the trigger straight away because they obviously made the wrong decision already once by pulling the trigger too late, maybe with their previous manager, the way that he won a trophy. So I don't think in that you saw that what happened was the result of one game affected the manager's future, and they made the wrong decision basing it over the result of one game last season, and then they ended up getting to where they are now. But I think what they're doing at the moment is playing the medium-term game, and it doesn't really matter what the outcome is because there's a process in place. They're trying to sign players to fit the manager's system and all this sort of waffle. And what we'll probably see is, regardless of the result, is United will start next season poorly and they'll sack him in October instead. That's probably what's going to happen. It's the same thing that's happened this season, and because I'm not sure the board and the new owners and whatnot are as competent as they say they are. And so even if we are having vegan sausages on the barbecue next weekend to celebrate the trophy win, I don't think it really makes a difference as to the short-term future of the manager. Postecoglou is different. I think a win here would be huge. It would kind of cement his legacy, like Tom was saying. I think Tom is also being swayed by the CV he has of winning trophies everywhere he's gone, kind of. The trophies at Celtic, trophies in Japan, the Buffalo Cup as a player back in 1988 for South Melbourne. I think that he carries around his medal everywhere with him, probably remembering that one. I'm not sure what the Buffalo Cup is, but it sounds amazing. I'd love to go to a game. But yeah, this for me, I think Man United are a team historically better. They're more used to playing finals. They've played in one all-English final before, with Champions League against Chelsea in 2008, won on penalties. Obviously, Spurs have been in a couple of all-English finals. The Liverpool game, the worst Champions League in history, as you said, and then you have to look back to beating Wolves in the UEFA Cup back in the 1970s over 2 legs at the UEFA Cup final, back when it was 2 legs. So, yeah, I think Man United's greater history, greater sense of winning silverware, especially recently, because there's a nice stat that I've seen that both the only 2 teams from England had won a trophy in each decade from the 1950s to 2000. That's Man United and Spurs, but Spurs' last trophy was in 2008, so they didn't do it in the 2010s. I haven't done it in the 2020s. Probably not going to do it again. That's why I like Man United as the outright winner at 173. So you're not saying that they're going to win it exactly in 90 minutes. It could go to extra time, like penalties, like Thomas predicted. So Man United outright winner is 173. Going back to the goal market as well, like I said earlier, Man United have scored 3 or more goals in the last 3 Europa League games. They've scored 2 or more goals in every single match in the Europa League, apart from that draw against Sociedad. So Man United over 1.5 goals could be a good option at 240. And if I was to have a safe bet on this one, it will be Man United over half a goal at 130. So that could be a good one to go. So yeah, I think Man United are going to score. I think they're going to win. I'm not necessarily saying they're going to win in full time, but yeah, I think they're going to win this trophy. And I think it's not going to make a difference to Ruben Amorim, but it could make a big difference to 𝐬𝐭𝐴 if he does not win here.
Well, great analysis, guys. It's pretty clear your bets, your tips. Any other thing you want to say before we say goodbye, Tom, Ronan?
Yes, I would like to say that...
About the game or anything in your life?
No, I was thinking about my breakfast. I was going to tell you about what I had for breakfast. No, I feel like it's a great final, right? It's fun to kind of kick these 2 teams because Man U have been so successful for all of our lives, right? And their downfall it's great content. It's a great conversation point for all of us. How it's happening, why it's happening, how can a billionaire come in to replace the Glazers, sort of, and make it worse? The Amorim story is wild. They've been so bad in the league. And of course, Tottenham have been everyone's favourite punching bag for the best part of 20 years. So I get it. And I think you're absolutely right about that Champions League final. It was awful from that terrible decision to give the handball against Sissoko early on. But I do feel like there is so much on it. And I have so many friends that support Tottenham that have never experienced any happiness. And just watching Crystal Palace at the weekend, going to the Newcastle Carabao Cup final win back in February, whenever it was. Of course, you know, I'm a West Ham fan and I was in Prague a couple of years ago. Like, the joy needs to be spread around. And maybe I've gone with Tottenham in hope rather than expectation. I think Ronan's right that Man U probably are slight favourites. They have the pedigree and will maybe win it and no one will be surprised and they'll sort of embarrassingly lift the trophy at the end and then quickly put it in a cupboard and not mention it again. But wouldn't it be great for all of us if Spurs won it? That's the hook here. Get over your hatred of Spurs, everybody, for one day and enjoy this, because then we get a full year of giving Man United a shoe-in again. And that's double fun, right?
Yeah, I think the one thing there is probably you're a West Ham fan and that's coloured your view of the game, and I'm a Bundesliga fan, so that's coloured my view of the game. I just expect the bigger team to win the trophy every single year. That's the way things go in the Bundesliga. So that's probably the way this one's going to go as well. And one thing that I did want to mention is at the top of the show, Edu, you mentioned that Tom was on because he's a Premier League expert, and then you said, and we had Ronan Murphy. He didn't even say I'm an expert on anything. So
yeah,
hopefully
Bundesliga, European, everything. Irish football, for sure.
Yes, Starling. I have one skill, and you've got many skills. So we didn't have the time to list your skills. Mine was just quick.
We had to finish the video on time, so I couldn't list all your skills. But for sure, the Bundesliga is one of those. And perhaps the Pokal Cup, and we see Arminia Bielefeld, for instance, winning a trophy next weekend. So let's see. Well, guys, thank you very much. Remember, I want to let you know that you can still post your tips in Oddspedia and participate in our tipster competitions and win up to 1,000 euros, or also participate in Rivals and create your own tipster competitions. Well, let me know in the comments, who are you backing, Tottenham or Man United? Regardless of the result, you can have fun just laughing at the loser. This is football. This is sports. Well, guys, thank you, Ronan, Tom. See you soon. Bye-bye.